Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
Located on Lake Pontchartrain, Brisbee's Lakefront Restaurant and Bar offers traditional West End favorites, a scenic view, oysters, and numerous tasty options. More information is available at 504-304-4125 or brisbeesrestaurant.com. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House has been shucking here since 1979. Located at 3117 21st Street in Metairie, Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House offers raw, fried, and grilled oysters as well as a range of Cajun and Creole dishes. Enjoy a dozen with a smile. Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is the first place award winner of the 2015 New Orleans Press Club's Excellence in Journalism Award for the category of Best TV Sports Show.
Good evening, New Orleans, and welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we'll talk a lot about the New Orleans Saints, talk about the Pelicans, we'll get into the NFL draft. We got a great panel for you tonight. Doug Mouton, Sports Director, WWL-TV, and Rick Gaille of SportsNewell.com, WGSO Radio, and WHNO-TV. Let's get it started. Guys, we always like to let the audience know a little bit about what you guys are involved in. Doug, we'll start with you first. Welcome back to the show. And, gosh, you got... I know you're working on fumes right now because we're doing a morning show. But
yeah, well, since Mike Haas retired, God, it's hard to say, but got retired. He's my age.
Right.
We've got a bunch of us filling in for a week until they get the next person. And they asked me to do it, and you know what? It's fun, and it's different, and we're covered this week, so it's going to be okay. But, boy, that morning show shift is, you talk about a grind. Trying that alarm at 2 a.m. is something. But, yeah, look, we're getting ready. April 27th is the single biggest day in New Orleans for us because it's the day that Zurich Classic tees off, and it's the first round of the NFL draft, and it is the start of a really fun time.
Yeah.
And that is an amazing weekend in New Orleans.
Yes, no doubt. Coach, welcome back. Tell the folks a little bit about what you got going.
It's tough being a celebrity, isn't it? It's not all that it's cracked up to be. Oh, it's just great being with Doug and being with you again, Eric. This is a great joy and a great pleasure working with great people like I do every week with Ken Trahan and Ed Daniels on the Three Tailgaters show on Saturday, writing for Sports NOLA, working with Renee Nato, WHNO-TV with Prep Recruiting Insider during the football season. So it's great. I'm just having a great time being around great people.
Well, you brought the Zurich Classic up, so let's talk about that first. And, of course, Rick, you got a background in golf. People seem to be really excited about this new format they're going to have with the team pairings. And, again, the pros look like they like it as well because this looks like the best field we've seen in years, maybe since pre-Katrina.
Well, this sounds goofy, but I think they're getting a bunch of commitments because it just looks fun. These guys haven't done this kind of event. Now, the PGA has a long history of team golf, but not a recent history. So the PGA is look, everything in sport, it's so competitive right now to try to get eyeballs watching TV sets. And the PGA recognizes, you know what, let's try something different. They talked to New Orleans about doing these two-man teams. New Orleans said, sure, we'll try it. And so they're doing two-man team golf. There's LSU teams and like other college-based teams. There's an Auburn team and multiple colleges. They've got teams based on guys from the same country or just guys who are friends. And so I think what you're going to see is, high fives and more excitement. It's a team sport. Now, look, if you're out there, you can't cheer for yourself.
No.
So if I'm playing with you and you make a shot, I can go nuts because that's helping me. So it's a whole different concept. I think it's going to be fun. I certainly have never seen this in real life, so I'm enormously looking forward to it.
Now, you play collegiate golf.
That's correct.
Have you ever played it in that type of format?
Many times, as a matter of fact. And there's a lot of interest in it because the Ryder Cup is next year, but the President's Cup is this year. So team golf is gaining more and more interest every year. The President's Cup is this year. and that is the international team against the United States. The Ryder Cup is England and Europe against the United States. So that type of alternate shot, like they're playing on Thursday and Saturday, that they never play, and the U.S. is in a big disadvantage in those events when they have alternate shot. Well, now they have an event where they're doing that on Thursday and Saturday, best ball on Friday and Sunday. And it has gotten a lot of people very interested. I had my doubts about it because I'm thinking, are they having to gimmick the tournament to get people here? How is this going to be accepted on the tour? Until I talked to Kelly Gibson. When I have a question now, we all have our sources.
Sure.
I go, Kelly, does this make any sense? Rick, this is going to be so good, it's unbelievable. And so from that point on, and when you see the commitments coming out of it, I think 6 of the top 10, 8 of the top 15. It's just tremendous.
Yes.
The feel that they've garnered for this is going to be great.
Right, and you had mentioned it's a big weekend. Besides Jazz and Heritage Festival that's going on at the fairgrounds, you got what 3 days of the draft, and then of course the Zurich Classic. So it stretches sports departments a little bit thin on that day for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, we said that week you get one day off instead of a normal 2,
Yes.
and Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday are 14-hour days. And look, nobody complains.
No, of course
it's
not.
too much fun.
Yeah.
No, I mean this is why you.
Yes.
I mean, this is why you have these jobs, so you can go out to the Zurich and then go to Saints camp for the draft. And we'll be at the draft in Philadelphia. Lions will go there. Leslie will go to Saints camp after being at the Zurich all day. I mean, we'll juggle, but it's one of the most fun weekends.
No doubt. Let's talk about the Saints. This week, rumors about Richard Sherman. Again, nothing confirmed with the Saints. No reports of contact between the Seahawks and the Saints. He is under contract with the Seahawks. He's 29 years old. He's under contract for 2 more seasons. Originally, it was reported $16 million a year, but you got to remember the bonus comes due if they make a trade. It's about $11 million a year because the Seahawks have to absorb the bonus. Doug, I'll start with you first. Is he a better fit than a Malcolm Butler at 29 instead of 27, not having to put up maybe the signing bonus you would have to put up for a Butler? In both cases, you're going to give up draft choices, although the Hawks have said they want a draft pick and a player, a starter. Your thoughts?
The Saints have certainly shown interest. They pursued Josh Norman. They've gone after veteran cornerbacks. They clearly know they have a need at cornerback, and cornerback is the one thing. It's a gamble in a draft. You look in the draft, and cornerback is one of the most volatile positions. So if you can get an established cornerback, a guy who can play in this league, you go for that. Now, Malcolm Butler, the way they have used him in New England would be similar to the way the Saints would need a guy. He could be your number 2 guy opposite of Delvin Breaux. Richard Sherman could do a lot of that stuff too. These are 2 quality players. If you had the ability to get either one, and I certainly think the Saints are in there. Clearly, the fact that they haven't done a deal for Butler yet shows that they're at least holding their ground a little bit, which is a good thing. I would not be at all surprised if they made a move for either one.
Right.
Yeah,
Coach?
that wouldn't surprise me either, even though a red flag is going up for me with Richard Sherman. Why would Seattle even think about it? All right? That's one of the environments that somebody like a Richard Sherman, with his intelligence, and he doesn't mind telling you he's intelligent on top of it. That's why he got drafted as late as he was. Jim Harbaugh told the league, this is what he's like. Well, it worked out fine until now. And now all of a sudden, Pete Carroll, with them declining, because make no mistake about it, the last 3 years, Seattle has been gradually declining.
Oh, no doubt.
And Sherman is getting louder and louder, becoming more disruptive in the locker room and around the team, because you have to be self-centered with a short memory to be a cornerback in the league. He's highly intelligent, doesn't mind telling you. It would be an interesting mix of personalities in the Saints locker room, because they've worked really hard to have a harmonious group in that locker room now after the debacle of 3 years ago?
Yeah, and that locker room was horrible 3 years ago.
Wow, yes, indeed it was. And that we've discussed that. I blame the coaching staff a lot for that, because at some point you got to say, look, fellas, You think you're in charge? No, I'm in charge. 'Cause I know Belichick would have done that, but that's a whole other issue.
Well, on the flip side, Malcolm Butler has been a pro.
Yeah.
Has not said a word about what's going on at New England, the possibility of him being shopped. He has not signed his tender. He has until the 21st of April to sign a tender. As I mentioned, he wants a Stephon Gilmore-type contract, what they gave to him in New England, 5 years, $65 million, $40 million guaranteed. If the Saints were to go in that direction and make a deal, obviously you have to absorb whatever pick you give up with the compensation. But you got that signing bonus, which is also going to be a big hit.
Yeah, I worry a lot less about the financial side of it. Look, the one thing the Saints have, and I want to talk about what they've done in the draft because I think they've done a lot of bad things in the draft, but the one thing they have done well is creative accounting. Every time people say the Saints don't have any money, they come up with money to sign somebody. I don't even claim in any way to understand the accounting of the NFL, nor do I really want to. It's not what's fun about it. But they have come up with ways to do that. So really, I'm not worried about what you pay Malcolm Butler. I'm worried about what you give up for him. But yeah, I like everything about Malcolm Butler. I think he's a much better fit than Richard Sherman. I certainly agree with everything Rick said. If you can make it work for the right deal with New England, I think they can make the money work. And I'm unconcerned about the money side, much more concerned about what it will cost.
Right. Before I go to you, Rick, well then, what is fair compensation? Is that 32nd pick that everyone's been talking about fair compensation in your mind? Would you rather see them come up with a 42nd pick, which is that first pick in the second round? Your thoughts?
Certainly, I think he's worth the 32nd pick. That's me personally. I think New England's probably asking for more than that. They might be asking for the 32, and then the same thing the Saints got and a flop in a different round. You know, you give me a 4, and I'll give you back a 6. You know, they might want a little more than a 32. You know, like a trade up in a different round. I certainly think he's worth the 32. I don't think there's. And you look at a quarterback that you might take at 32, and if you said you can get a guy as good as Malcolm Butler, you'd go nuts if you thought you could get a guy who could perform like that. I certainly think I wouldn't give the 11, but I would certainly give the 32. No doubt.
Coach, your thoughts on Butler? The again having to sign him, signing bonus, and then of course kind of morph into compensation. Would you think compensation is fair?
We know that elements of a good story are who, what, where, when, why, how, and the NFL adds how much to the elements of a good story. So how much has everything to do with it, and you're dealing with the hoodie. First, any deal that he would agree to, you don't do it, okay? Right. You got to come back with a counter off, because if he's agreeing to it, you know who's getting the short end of the stick. If it is the 32nd pick, the Saints must get a 4th-round pick in addition. I call it the sweetener. Who gets the extra at the end? If you look at every deal New England has done this year, they get the sweetener at the end of it. A pick for a person and the sweetener. Well, the Saints would, if it's the 32nd pick, you get the 4th. If it's the 43rd pick, you get a 5th-round pick, because the Saints don't have a 4th or a 5th round.
And neither does New England right now either.
Right. So you've got to get something like that to be able to do it. The hoodie could invent one somewhere. They'll borrow one from Goodell that they took away from him.
No doubt. No doubt. But do you think 32nd pick is
not straight up? It's got to be a sweetener in addition to it.
Much like they got with Brandon Cooks.
Yes, indeed. You've got to get something extra, because you cannot go into this draft with less than 7 picks. You know, they worked their way up to 7. This, that, the other, back and forth. They can't come out of this again with just 5.
They will.
They made a mistake last year with that. Because here's how you evaluate a draft. How many of those players make it to a second contract? And if you have 4 that make it to a second contract, you've had a very successful draft. Well, if you only end up with 5, it's hard to get to 4. And so this year, if the Saints have got to be accumulators and not spenders. They can't go from 7 to 5.
Well, you said they will.
Oh, look, this is my draft spiel, and I talked to a lot of groups during the year, and so I've said this spiel multiple times, if you've seen me anywhere. All right, here's the thing. As the Saints were building towards the Super Bowl, they were draft accumulators. Gotta love that term. I'm stealing that from you now. They were draft accumulators. They traded back. In the NFL, I'm going to say everyone knows it. When you trade draft picks, generally, if you want to trade up, it's a 2-for-1. Generally, you're giving 2 to get 1 to move up a little bit. That's the standard. Okay. As the Saints were building towards the Super Bowl, they actually traded back, got extra picks 3 times. Roman Harper and Jari Evans were both on trade backs, and trade backs are more pure draft picks because you're getting value. So you tend to sit, wait for your pick, take the best guy, because at that point you're looking for value, and that's how they got Roman Bowman Harper and Jerry Evans. Since they won the Super Bowl, they have traded up 7 times. Right. 7 times. That's 7 draft picks, because all of those 7 were 2-for-1s. 7 draft picks they gave away. Plus, the NFL took 2 away in the bounty. That's 9 picks. That's not 9 misses. And they've had plenty of their share of misses. That's not 9 misses. That's 9 darts you never threw, that you never tried. Twice this year. David Onyemata was a trade-up. Von Bell was a trade-up. Von Bell was a trade-up with New England. New England got 2 for the 1 to move up. While the Saints have given away 9 since the Super Bowl win. In the last 3 years, supposed to get 7 picks a year, right? 21 picks. The last 3 years, New England, the model franchise, has made 29 picks in the last 3 years. So what happens when Tom Brady is out 4 games? They got Jimmy Garoppolo. Second-round draft pick. Jimmy Garoppolo gets hurt. What do? Well, you got a 3rd-round draft pick, Jacoby Brissett. When Dion Lewis, who was a 5th-round pick, gets hurt, who do you have? Well, you got James White. He was a 3rd-round pick. How do they keep replenishing? They do it with the exact opposite mindset as the Saints. The Saints have given away 9 picks. New England has made 8 extra picks. So how do you fill in gaps? How do you have guys to let Malcolm Butler go, or however you need to fill holes? Well, you have 17 more guys. How do you get to 4 to a second contract? Throw me 17. I can give you 4 if you give me 17, but at the Saints will have 5. And to me, they have been in desperation mode to get back one more time since they won the Super Bowl. And I think the draft is the purest indicator. And look, here's the thing about the draft, too. In the age of the salary cap, the draft, all those guys come on a salary scale. They are your best bargains. So on a team that has money problems, they are the equalizer. That's how New England can throw money at people, is because they have so many draft picks working on that low scale. So it helps for the wage scale, and it helps just you're building your young base. And that's how New England has gotten there, and the Saints have taken the exact opposite tact, and it has led to 3 straight losing seasons, I think, more than any other factor.
And the fact that they haven't hit on those draft picks as well.
But even New England doesn't hit on all the draft picks.
But they have more draft picks.
But they take twice as many. That's my point. You don't give away draft picks. David Onyemata might be a fine pick. And look, in the Saints' standpoint, sometimes even when you're right, you're wrong. P.J. Williams and Damian Swann, to me, both look like solid picks, right? But in 2 years, which is between 2 guys at 64 games, they've played a grand total of 9 games out of 64 with injuries. So I think those were 2 good picks. You just got unlucky that they got hurt. So why not throw more darts when, you're not going to hit on them anyway, and sometimes even when you do hit, they get hurt. That's my draft speed.
No, but I certainly agree with that. And even this year, when you look at the depth of the draft, I would think you would try to get back into the draft. You don't have a 4th or 5th round pick. And when you look at some of the players that will be available in the 4th or 5th round, they can come in and contribute immediately. To me, you want to get into those rounds. You don't want to be giving those picks away. Coach, piggyback on what Doug said, your thoughts.
Disagree?
No, absolutely not. We've been talking about this for 2 years now since we've been doing this. No, that's exactly right. It's a secret to the draft, because you're going to miss on a lot of them. That step from college football to professional football is not for everybody. And so it's easy to miss on those. And that is cheap labor now, is the draft choice. How important is it? Von Bell's a pretty good player. He's going to be – New England got 2 starters. The left guard started every game, played every offensive snap. Joe Thuney, that came in the Von Bell trade, and Malcolm Mitchell, a wide receiver, was a pretty important cog in the Super Bowl. Arizona got 2 picks when they traded with the Saints for Brandon Cook. Deion Buchanan, who is helping to revolutionize defensive football in the league, and another receiver. Both Brown are both there with Arizona. So the Saints, I absolutely agree, you are doing exactly the opposite. That's why in any trade, the sweetener, you get that extra pick. And New England this year has made two trades for players. Both of them, they got an extra, like a 4th round and a 6th round pick, one from Indianapolis, in getting a tight end. So you've got to accumulate cheap labor and keep, because you're going to turn over at worst, at best, let's say. You want to turn over 20% of your roster each year, so that every 5 years, except for the quarterback, you want to turn over your roster every 5 years. Well, the Saints have been turning over 47 to 50% of their roster every year, and you wonder why there's no continuity from one year to the other. You know, and it all comes down to mishandling of the draft.
Yeah, and of course, that roster has been augmented by undrafted free agents. I mean, because that's where they've had to go.
They had no choice. They don't have draft picks.
Right. You know, so that's part of it. Guys, at 11, what do you like? Obviously, a lot of people want to see the Saints get a pass rushing defensive end. Is there a particular player that you like at that position?
I still haven't. Derek Barnett is the name you hear the most,
yes.
The defensive end. And look, he's not even a true defensive end.
Yeah.
He's a 255-pounder. You'd love to be able to find another Cam Jordan on the other side. They have to get a pass rusher on that. They've tried multiple people, haven't been able to get it done. Reuben Foster's name comes up a lot, the middle linebacker at Alabama. They've invested so much in trying to find inside linebackers the last few years and still haven't quite hit on anyone. You don't want to reach. You don't want to gamble on somebody. You think if Barnett's there, he looks like the best option. I'm still a couple of weeks away. I haven't settled on who I like best at that spot. But you got to come away with this draft, and whether it's with a veteran or through the picks, you got to get a cornerback, and you got to get help on the defensive line. And I still think they need multiple help on the defensive line. They need a guy who can rush the passer and a guy who can be a true defensive end. They need a couple of guys to play those spots.
What about the running back position now that Tim Hightower's left?
I definitely think you need running back help. And actually, there's a lot of people talking about like a Christian McCaffrey or one of those types late in the first round. The guy that I love in the draft is Donnell Pumphrey, who's a little guy from San Diego State who can fly. Look, Sean Payton has done a nice job. He's done a great job with the offense finding his dynamic weapon wherever it is. When he first got here, he built the offense around Reggie Bush and making teams overplay Reggie Bush. Then when Jimmy Graham emerged, he built it around Jimmy Graham and people overplaying him. So he can bring it from different spots in a way that I like. But right now, without Brandon Cooks, you're looking at a receiver set. Mike Thomas is a terrific receiver, but it's not a very dynamic set. Right. If you have to play Cadet and Fleener and Mike Thomas and Willie Snead, you're talking about not a lot of scare in that offense, and you need some more scare. And to me, you can get that out of running back. The Saints have done that with Sproles and Bush. That's why I like Pumphrey. Or if they decide to go get a McCaffrey or one of those guys where they can put the scare at the running back spot, that'd be great. But to me, you can't go with Willie Snead, Travaris Cadet, and Kobe Fleener as 3 of your 5 receiving options without Brandon Cooks, who could stretch the field on the field. Right. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Certainly. Yeah.
You want to piggyback on that, and then I'll ask you about the picks?
Right. The Saints are bad enough that they could take the best player available at 11. Now, that's not easy to do, all right, because that was an exercise that I started yesterday on the radio. I substituted for Jude Young, and we were building our own draft board. There's a difference between a draft board and a mock draft. All right, a mock draft is who they might take.
Sure.
Your draft board is just trying to rate, and this is what Jeff Ireland does. He takes 1 through 225, and then hopefully you have enough discipline that you take the best player at 11 because somebody in the top 10 is going to fall to you because somebody is going to do something stupid. So build your draft board. Let the draft board talk to you. Don't fall in love with a player. And need is a terrible evaluator. Don't take the 13th guy at number 11 if you've got the 6th guy sitting in your lap. So it's tricky because it's hard to be able to rank players because how do you compare a defensive tackle to a cornerback? But you've got to be able to do that. Jeff Ireland does a pretty darn good job of it. And so the Saints just need to take the best player available at that time and have the discipline to follow through and don't trade the darn picks away.
Well, then give me the needs.
Everywhere except center, quarterback, and right now it's a defensive tackle. They're okay at those 3 positions. Every other position they can improve upon.
Adrian Peterson comes to town. He leaves without a contract. Guys, I'm a little bit leery on Adrian Peterson. Injury prone over the last few years, age. I just think with the depth of the running back position in the draft, you can get a player that is cheaper, younger, and is not going to demand the football, okay? Again, which he can come in and say he's not going to demand the football. He can play behind Ingram. You know he's going to want the ball. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. Your thoughts on Peterson?
If you could get a reasonable deal, you talk about you look for upside in anything.
Sure.
I mean, this is a guy who's literally one of the best running backs in the history of football. Nobody argues that. If you can get him at 90% or even 80% of what he used to be, I think he's a great gamble. The reason he went to New England, didn't sign left, came to New Orleans, didn't sign left, is because I think his contract demands are not financially, what's the word, on earth. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yes, at 32, he's not going to get that deal. At 32, that's not a young running back. But if they could get him on a one-year deal at Eddie Lacy got $5.5 million from Seattle. If they get him on a one-year deal that works, he's a gamble with enormous upside. I agree with you. I wouldn't overspend. But look, and I agree with Rick. They have so many needs, and at every position they can use depth. So if you can take one of your needs off the table with a guy that could potentially be great, then I'd be all for it. Although I don't disagree with anything you said. He is going to demand the ball.
Right.
There's some question marks, but to me, it's a good gamble if you can make it work.
And he's well rested.
He is well rested.
2 years, he is extremely well rested. In the running back position, it's how you want to blow up your running back room. Let's say a Leonard Fournette was available at number 11. That blows up the top half. Okay. If a Christian McCaffrey is available, who I love,
At 11?
how much again? Okay. No, I'm just talking. I'm just filling up my draft board, okay? I mean, he is a Pro Bowl caliber player with the Saints.
With the Saints?
Talk about genetics. When you
Yeah.
look at the gene pool that he comes from, it's just outstanding. Alvin Kamara from Tennessee is a poor man's Christian McCaffrey. He could be available later in the draft. But with somebody like a Kamara, you're blowing up the bottom half of the room. They'll substitute for at least two running backs that are on the bottom half of that running back room. It's all in where the running back's going to fit in. How much again comes to be part of the equation. But they need an explosive player at that position. They don't need a plugger. They need somebody who's explosive, which fits right in with what you're saying. Right. You hope the receiver from Carolina can help take the top off the coverage a little bit, as long as you don't depend on him catching the ball.
Yes.
So Peterson's well rested. We hope this guy can catch the ball. So we still got more questions than we have answers.
It is an important component of a receiver to be able to receive. That's not been his best skill.
Bobby Conlon told me one time, brother, you being a Brother Martin guy, he says, Rick, you could put a guy out there with no arms and they still got to cover him.
So we all would agree that the Sproles-Bush type of player is a need for this team.
Sure, I think they need two running backs. Right. Look, Tim, in the NFL, one guy can't, and that's not going to happen anymore. You need two meal ticket guys. Ingram's one, you need a second. Now, Hightower they got really on the cheap, and maybe you can find a guy like that, but Peterson would be the Hightower guy. You still need a third down back. For now, with Travaris Cadet, who is at best serviceable. But if you rank the 32 third down backs in the NFL, he is at best 25th or 28th. And obviously you need to be better than that if you want to be a playoff team.
Sure. Exactly. That's the difference. Explosive plays are the difference between staying home or moving on. And right now the Saints don't have an explosive player, and especially from the backfield. Where you could take a 5-yard play and turn it into 80. That's what I thought Brandon Cooks could be, but lo and behold, he can't dodge. So you can't throw him the ball. You couldn't throw him the ball short and have him take, even though he's faster than everybody else, he'd run right into guys. But he could run by people. Now we hope that Ted Ginn can at least keep the safeties from collapsing on crossing patterns and the like, and they still need that explosive satellite player.
Yes. Guys, thoughts on how they've done so far in free agency?
Well, look, the two things we said without question they needed more than anything else was to find somebody who can rush the passer. Only the Lions had less sacks in the NFC. You got to be able to rush the passer, and they have not gone out and fixed that problem. And they needed a second cornerback to go with Delvin Breaux with all the injuries. We saw how they had to play they had to do everything so differently on defense. Dennis Allen never really got to play a defense he wanted to. They needed a cornerback. So they've gone out in free agent. They signed a bunch of guys, A.J. Klein and Manti Te'o, maybe together they can be an upgrade. Sure, I don't disagree with anything you've done, but the two biggest things that everybody knows they've needed, they haven't fixed.
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'm finding it very curious that they signed two middle backers. The role in today's football of the middle backer and the will backer, because everybody plays 4-2. Whether you're a 3-4 team, 4-3 team, whatever, you can play in 4-2-5 80% of the time. The Mike backer is the inside backer, and he's got to be able to tackle and still be able to go sideline to sideline. And Craig Robertson did a serviceable job last year.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Even though he was a will backer in Cleveland, which is what Donnell Ellaby is. How important is that position? When you have a good will backer, you can play defense. When you don't, you can't. But now you're overloaded so that if Reuben Foster, let's say Reuben Foster falls to you at number 11, who's one of the best 4 players in the draft. If he falls to you number 11, you go, well, wait, we just signed these. Well, sorry, man, Tao. You know, we thought we liked you, but never mind. So I'm very surprised at the amount of attention that the Mike backer position has gotten, and the best free agent signee so far is Nick Fairley.
Oh yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
He solidified the inside, so they have a nice rotation with 4 players at the defensive tackle position, but still more questions than answers.
You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports each and every Thursday night with our live broadcast right here on WLAE at 6 p.m. Our guest tonight, Doug Mouton, Sports Director of WLAE-TV, Rick Gaille of WGSO Radio, WHNO TV, and of course, my name is Eric Asher. I am your host. We'll be right back after these messages.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Amco Fence, locally owned and operated since 1976. Fully licensed and insured and a member of the BBB, Amco serves both residential and commercial customers. If you're looking to repair, replace, or install a fence for security or aesthetic reasons, Amco Fence supplies wooden, metal, chain link, vinyl, and ornamental or automatic gates. Amco aims to satisfy your fencing needs. Amco Fence, 504-468-9559 or amcofencecompany.com.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. We'll go to the phone lines in just a few minutes. Pelicans end 34-48 on this season, missing the playoffs once again. Dell Demps and Alvin Gentry met the media today of the year-end press conference. I was hoping it would be Mickey Loomis making that year-end press conference, but that never happened. So it looks like those two guys will have at least one more year to try to get this team over the hump. Those that listen to my radio show, those that watch this television show, know my feeling on Dell Demps. And of course, you know, by Alvin Gentry, just kind of as collateral damage here going forward. But hey, it is what it is at this point. So I want to get our guests' thoughts on the future of this team. And first of all, is it deserving for, after 7 years of Dell Demps having the opportunity to be able to rework this roster with, again, one playoff appearance? Is it fair? I don't know if fair is the right word. In a bottom line business, is it?
Should he still have a job?
Boy, I tell you what, I'm trying to be nice about this.
Does the punishment fit the crime?
I've been so angry. Last week I got so angry on this program talking about it. No, he should not have a job, but should he have a job?
No. Well, first of all, there are 2 different questions. Were they going to keep him? Should they keep him? Were they going to keep him? No doubt. As soon as the DeMarcus Cousins trade went down, almost no matter what happened, he had an out. Well, we just haven't learned to play with each other yet. He was going to stay. Should he be staying? Absolutely not. And this team, look, they have the potential maybe to get better. They're 11-14 since the trade, right? The trade was going to get them back in the playoff race. They were 3.5 games out. They finished 7 games out. They went further back once they made the trade. They went 11-14. I mean, certainly those 2 give you 2 incredible pieces to build with, but But no, and here to me was the biggest indicator. At the Senior Bowl, Mickey Loomis talked, and he was asked about the Pelicans because we haven't been able to talk to Mickey Loomis. We haven't been able to talk to anybody in Pelicans management other than Alvin Gentry, upper management. And Mickey Loomis said, oh, my position with the Pelicans is overrated, is overblown. Here is the guy who is the boss of the boss, right? He's Dell Demps' boss. That's the way the structure is set up, and he minimizes his own role. The Pelicans are so handled as the other thing that they do in Metairie.
Now the third thing after horse racing.
Yeah, now the third thing after horse racing. And once Mickey Loomis downplayed his own, he just wants to not worry about it. And when you have that from the top, that's where the problem starts. Doesn't start with Dell Demps. I mean, if I'm Dell Demps, I want to keep my job too.
Sure.
The problem is above Dell Demps. The problem is with Mickey Loomis or whoever is telling Mickey Loomis, and the fact that Mickey Loomis is completely unconcerned.
But that gives Dell Demps an opportunity that no other general manager has, and that's to be aggressive in implementing his philosophy. What's a general manager in the NBA supposed to do? Acquire personnel, acquire talent, and handle a salary cap. And he's got carte blanche to be able to do that. I look as a competitor for responsibility. Give me the responsibility and give me the chance to buy the groceries. So that's what he's supposed to do. The Pelicans are bad and they're cash strapped. So he's failed in both of those particular areas. And in looking at the press conference today, I thought I was watching Josh Earnest back in the White House telling us that everything's fine, it's getting better. And you know why it's getting better? Because we're telling you it's getting better. I'm going, wait a second, this is deja vu all over again. And finally, when I'm trying to diagnose before I prescribe, what does it take? And I hate the F word. Fired. Okay, sure. I've been fired before.
Being a coach,
I try not to use that at all. Okay, that gets my attention. But what does it take to get a general manager replaced in New Orleans if this isn't it?
Right. Well, and look, the mismanager of the cap has strapped this team like no other in the NBA. I don't see Tom Benson being a taxpayer paying the luxury tax.
Oh, no way.
They may go over the cap, but they're never going to be a taxpayer.
Not with that attendance.
There's no way. But again, one kind of goes in hand with the other. They can motivate this fan base to come out and support this team with a winning team.
Oh, sure, if you win.
With a winning team. But you're not going to win if ultimately you continue to stub your toe and overpay for players or bring players in that don't pan out. I mean, it makes a lot of Pelican fans sick to see what's going on in Houston right now. Okay, with two players that were the cornerstones of Dell Demps' philosophy of changing things here in New Orleans. It didn't work out. You can blame injuries somewhat on it. Some will say, as I did, I don't think they should have re-signed Eric Gordon. But, man, this team is cash-strapped because of the mismanagement of the cap, and that points right back to Dell Demps.
Yeah, no doubt. And look, just in defense of that, I would have let Eric Gordon go for sure, too. Ryan Anderson's a quality stretch.
Absolutely.
Houston built a team around James Harden penetrating and kicking out to those guys. They had a different key piece than Anthony Davis. Building around Anthony Davis is not going to be the same as building around James Harden. James Harden, by the way, for me, is the MVP in the NBA this year. Because, certainly, if Russell Westbrook wins it, that's totally deserved. But to me, what Harden has done is Ryan Anderson, Eric Gordon, Trevor Ariza are having career years because of James Harden. Who in Oklahoma City is having a career year because of Russell Westbrook, other than Russell Westbrook? And don't get me wrong, if he's the MVP, that's a great pick. But Harden has changed who he is as a player, become more of a distributor while still scoring a crazy amount of points, and he's made his teammates better. And that's what Anthony Davis can do, although because he's not going to be handling the ball like James Harden, it's a different set of circumstances. I can't say I necessarily disagreed with not paying those guys a ton of money. I get that. And I see what Solomon Hill can do well. And that he grew on me during the course of the season. Still $48 million. And you've spent $34 million last year on E'Twaun Moore, who was really not a productive player.
And then going to Marashik, $33 million left over a 3-year period on that contract.
Well, that's clearly the worst contract in New Orleans. It's the worst deal in New Orleans since the Saints took Russell Erxley. Oshik's contract is as bad as it gets. He's got, he'll make $10 million. I did the math. He made $116,000 per point that he scored this year. He scored 85 points, made $9.9 million.
I want that job.
Yeah.
Erxleben gotten some games.
Yes.
That's a little.
Unfortunately.
I've never heard anyone defend Erxleben before.
Unfortunately.
Nice.
He actually got in some games. But gosh, I mean, look at those two players, Russell Westbrook and James Harden. Unbelievable years, historic in what they're doing. Harden wound up only 1 point shy of points responsible for between his points off of assists, 1 point behind Tiny Archibald, and averaging a triple-double in this environment.
Incredible.
As Russell, I mean, what great play that was this year. And at Oklahoma City, in a situation where your best player had left.
Yeah.
And he took a franchise and got him into playoffs. And in all of that, D'Antoni gets a lot of credit at Houston, being able to put all that together. Maybe he'll get some of the credit for being an excellent NBA coach. But the Pelicans have 17 games to pick up. I don't look at the 8th spot. I look at the 4th spot.
Sure.
Right.
All right? You're trying to build a championship team, not inch into the playoffs.
Right.
Can this administration, it's like depending on the Army Corps of Engineers, they couldn't keep a levee together, so now we're putting them in charge of everything flood-wise. Can this administration improve this team 17 games? What's the plan?
Well, and can you do it with, again, your hands tied now because of mismanagement of the cap? And that's going to be very difficult. You mentioned Ariza, you mentioned Anderson, you mentioned Gordon. I believe all guys that were traded by Dell Demps here in New Orleans.
Sure, yeah. Okay. And look, again, they fit.
Traded or left at free agency.
Right. They fit what Houston is doing right now. Look, I love how Houston was built. I love what they've done in Utah. I mean, I'm looking around the NBA, and look, the Pelicans have a one piece in Anthony Davis that's as good as any of those pieces.
That's correct.
Because he is a team player who plays on both ends. And look, and I get the knock on Harden. He's not going to play. He's not going to work super hard on defense. I get that. But you've got one piece in Anthony Davis that if you asked him in Houston, you know, how much better is Harden than Davis? Like, if they're honest, like, well, they're comparable, different, obviously. But, like, the Pelicans have just as good a piece as anyone to start with.
And now they have Boogie Cousins.
And they have been completely unable to build anything cohesive around him.
Right. Guys, what happens with Drew Holiday now? Is he worth an almost max contract of about $16 million a year? Will he ultimately want to come back to New Orleans? I mentioned this on the radio show, on this show. In Drew Holiday's time here in New Orleans, I've never heard him profess his love for New Orleans, love for being here with the Pelicans. Obviously, he got traded here. The question is, does he want to come back? The question is, do you have to overpay him to come back?
You definitely have to overpay. You saw that in free agency last year. They overpaid for Solomon. Everybody in the NBA overpaid for everybody.
Right.
Salary cap goes up. Everybody's got more money. There's not that many free agents out there. They way overpaid for Solomon Hill. They way overpaid for Etuan Moore. And Drew Holiday is a much more established player. He had this year, though, some unbelievable lapses of concentration down the stretch. We saw it in multiple games. It was frustrating. Somebody's going to give him a giant contract. I am not as rock solid on him. Like, we argue about this at work a lot. And a couple of the guys in the office are much higher on Drew Holiday. And he can be a terrific perimeter defender. He can play on both ends. So I guess he's the best guy out there that you're going to get for this team, but I can't say I love it because the lapses of concentration this year were frustrating and all at the wrong time.
You see, I think the off guard is where he belongs now, but I do agree he's the best on-ball defender they have on this team. But the question is he worth an almost max contract of $16 million?
He's going to get it.
You know, and then when you look at what you have now tied up in players that are not contributing to this team, it's a very difficult process going forward. Coach, your thoughts?
How much, and do you have somebody better?
Yeah.
Because you can't just break even. You know, it's got to be somebody that's Drew Holiday or better. Because the Pelicans, if you have two big people inside, even though neither one's really a low post player, but from the free throw line extended to the rim, that you've got two players in, you've got to have three people who could score. All right, you can't just have a pass only type of director at the point guard position because you need three guys to be able to score and stretch the defense out. Now, if you only have one inside guy, you can have a distributor and three scorers. So you need three guys who could shoot the ball there, depending on how many people that you have inside. but you can't get worse at that position.
Right.
You know, and how much is somebody worth? What somebody else will pay them.
Right.
What we get angry about is paying bad players that amount of money.
Yeah. Agreed.
And he's not a bad player, but you know, you hope to get better.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Boogie Cousins. Do you believe that they need to go out this year and try to re-sign him before he becomes, before he has a chance to be able to test free agency at the end of next season, or do you kind of wait this thing out?
Yeah, well, he sort of indicated, and he hadn't quite said it, but he sort of indicated that he wants to wait, that he wants to delay it and see what's out there, see how much he likes it. And look, he showed flashes, and I'm starting. You said they don't have a low post player. I think they're so much better when you got to make him play low post a little bit more.
It's about Boogie.
You're talking about Boogie.
Yeah.
He's got a body and agility. He's got nimble feet like a giant man. To me, he's the most nimble giant man that I've seen since Willie Roaf. You know what I mean? He's so light on his feet, but you got to put him inside before you can stretch him outside. I thought there were games where he was too in love with just setting up at the 3-point line, and that's not who he is. Now, if he gets inside, goes low post, makes him play him down there, then he can stretch out. But to me, he's got to be forced from a coach. You need a strong coach to force him to play inside more, because him inside is where you get the full value from that physicality.
Let's head to the phone lines, guys. 866-3200. Let's go to John. John, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, John.
Hi. I was just wondering, what do y'all think of the chances that the Pelicans sign Russell Westbrook since he's a free agent?
Thanks for the call. I say 0 to none.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. The way the NBA works their salaries, you're allowed to pay your own guys significantly more money than someone else can pay your guys. So Oklahoma City will offer Russell Westbrook every penny the NBA allows them to offer, and the Pelicans could only offer significantly less. NBA, no matter how much money is out there, I was listening to Major League Baseball radio the other day, and Cliff Floyd was talking. He said, the one thing every athlete knows is you don't leave money on the table. You just don't leave money on the table. And not that I think most of us in the room would know that as well. And he would be leaving so much money on the table to leave Oklahoma City. I don't think anyone has a chance to sign him at this point.
Coach, I'm going to come back to you. That's why I think Boogie Cousins stays in New Orleans.
And that may be the eventual.
Because he lost $30 million by not re-signing or getting traded by the Kings.
And he would lose more.
Right. He can gain all but $10 million of that by re-signing with the Pelicans. If he leaves, he loses then $20 million.
Right. He'd be leaving money on the table. And this is a guy from Mobile, which Nick Fairley is from Mobile.
Right.
And the Baby Cake's best player, Destin Hood, is from Mobile. We got a Mobile connection going on right now.
No doubt.
Yes, he's close to home. His family's here. I do think they'll get something worked out with him. Getting that top-tier free agent is going to be hard because those guys are all going to stay home and not leave millions on the table.
Sure. Coach, your thoughts on if they can afford a Russell Westbrook?
It is the American free enterprise system. Okay, so not only not leave money on the table, but as much as you possibly can all the time. I mean, it's a very short period of time in one's life to be able to get what you can out of it. So no chance at Westbrook. What he's been able to do at Oklahoma City, because I would have thought before the year there was a better than even chance, or maybe an even chance of him going to like the Lakers or something like that, because that's where he's from. But it looks like he's got a good fit now in Oklahoma City. The coach, the team, everything is falling into place. And their record, when it's not like he gets a triple-double and everybody's jealous that he's getting it.
Right.
They win when they do. He's like 30 and 11 or something when he gets triple-double. So he's set right there.
Let's go to Chris. Chris, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Chris.
How you doing, guys?
Doing fine.
My question is, they need another general manager, and they need another coach.
Another coach and another general manager. Guys, I think that kind of ship has sailed now. I know you'd also wanted to know about Pell's defense. They were a pretty good defensive team this year until the end when Boogie and Anthony Davis sat as well.
When they didn't win, it was because they weren't scoring. It's because the offense wasn't good enough. And with DeMarcus Cousins on the floor with Anthony Davis, and if you can keep Drew Holiday, the offense shouldn't be a problem, but it has been.
Right.
And you do still have to find shooters.
Oh, absolutely. You got to be able to put the ball in the basket. If you don't put the ball in the basket, nobody's got to play defense. So they've got to be able to score. But you have two guys, the two big guys, that can play. I mean, they can play all over the floor. And when you have a very good, I don't know about great on-ball defender in Drew Holiday, that's a pretty good prescription for defensive success.
Well, and look, I tell you what, you mentioned shooters. You know, to me, they've got to get a point guard that can penetrate, that can obviously play some defense, but get the ball to the big guys. But the other thing is they've got to get shooters.
Right.
They got to surround these guys with shooters.
Right.
And that's going to be one of the keys going forward.
I think they thought Etwan Moore was going to be one of those guys, and he really didn't.
He's a better defender than he is a shooter.
Correct.
Right. No doubt about that.
And he's a backup.
Brian joins us. Brian, welcome.
Yeah, how you doing, guys?
Hey, Brian.
Real quick, I mean, it's obvious as a nose on your face, I know. They got to get rid of Dempson. They have to get rid of Gentry. I think it's a dual thing. I think they both need to go. That's bottom line. My only fear is they're judging of who should be there and who shouldn't be there. It's not really been all that great since the coach day that they shouldn't have fired.
Monty Williams.
I think they should have kept him originally, the one right before Gentry. But anyway, that's my take on that.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Look, for the audience, both Dell Demps and Alvin Gentry meant the media tape. They are here. They're not going anywhere. So again, you got at least another season with them. And a lot of people have an affinity for Monty Williams and felt that once Williams was let go, that Dell Demps was on a short leash.
Yeah, look, Monty Williams, and clearly it came down to Dell Demps or Monty Williams, and the organization let Dell Demps make the call and get rid of Monty. Monty Williams won 45 games 3 years ago. And Alvin Gentry was brought in to get them to the next level. They went from 45 to 30 to 34. So they're 11 games back from where they were 2 years ago when the goal was to get to the next level.
And Coach was saying they need to go 17 games.
Yes, indeed. They do.
You need to be better than they were at 45.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Don't be surprised if Alvin Gentry gets thrown under the bus.
Yeah.
Because it was after this date that Monty Williams got fired. Remember, he met the media after the playoff game. So if necessary, Dell Demps has shown that he can make you a speed bump.
Let's go back to the phone lines. Greg, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Greg.
Hey, guys. Just want to give kudos to the Saints in their management decision to get rid of Junior Gillette. So that was a really good decision to do that.
Unfortunately, they did it after they overpaid.
Yeah, after they paid him a ton of money.
Yeah, but I guess my statement or my question or my theory is going to be is, why don't we just draft nothing but powerhouse offenses this year, offensive players, and why don't we go back to the 2009 blueprint, which is getting on top of teams early? You know, it's 21-7, and so obviously our defense is going to look a hell of a lot better when we were on top of teams. I don't think Sean Payton would ever care about defense back in 2009, so I just want to hear your take on it.
Guys?
The defense in 2009 was a heck of a lot better than it's been the last few years. The defense in 2009 certainly got lost under that offense, which was so good, but it was an opportunistic defense, and that defense had players like this one doesn't. Look, Cam Jordan's a great player. I think Delvin Breaux can be a really good player. And they've got some they've got a few pieces, but they have got a ton of holes on that defense, and we've seen I mean, you look at games like the Washington game a couple of years ago in Washington. Remember that one?
Yes.
No matter how many points the Saints scored, they couldn't win that game. You got to play some semblance of defense, and they haven't been the last couple of years.
And I feel somewhat confident in saying that Sean Payton does not plan to fall behind early in the game, that he likes to get ahead. And that is certainly the plan if he could possibly do that. So, yeah, it's a pretty good strategy. Let's get ahead and then kick their butt.
Yeah, but, unfortunately, again, the Saints on the defensive side of the ball have left a lot to be desired over the last few years, and they've got to build that defense up. I mean, to win the turnovers that they got that year, the 2000, really masked the deficiencies on that defense.
Yeah, look, if you want to be a great team, if you want to win a championship, you have to do everything well. You can't build half of a team and expect to win a championship. You have to be good in all areas. The goal is to win a Super Bowl, not to be half a team.
Right.
You got to do everything well.
Right, no doubt. Scott, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Scott.
Hey, man. I mean, this is just perfect because I got the 5-player defensive mock draft right here that's going to take care of this defense. And we're going to start it out with Derek Barnett. If he's not there, we're going to take Reuben Foster. At 32, we're going to take the safety Obi Melifonwu. We've got like, what, a 41-inch vertical, jump 12 feet, run a 4.4 flat at 6'4", 225 pounds, at 118 tackles. Then at 42, we're going to take Fabian Morrow from UCLA. Cornerback, runs a 4.37, very fluid, 6 foot, about 206. At 76, we're going to take Duke Riley out of LSU. We all know what he can do, 4.53, second fast linebacker at the combine. And then with the last pick in the third round, 103, Sidney Jones should fall. He's first-round talent. He should fall maybe the third round because they got about 10 cornerbacks that have about second-grade talent. What do y'all think?
Not a bad draft.
You know, that would, yeah, right, right. Assuming all those guys are where they are.
Sure.
The one thing about drafts, cornerbacks, especially cornerbacks who can run, always rise in the draft. There are positions where they're taken, or if there's 10 in the set. Look, the one thing this league is, the one thing where it's so different than it was even 10 years ago, is there are so many more jobs for anyone who can cover somebody and anyone who can go catch the ball and run a little bit. But cornerback is the most, cornerback and the guy who can rush the pass are the most desired positions, and people will roll a dice. So if you're expecting any bargain on a cornerback in a draft, in the last 5 years, that hasn't happened.
They're all people I heard of, so good job.
To Toby. Toby, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Toby.
Yeah, at 32, if they get a trade offer, you think they should trade back if they get a number 1 in 2018 and a number 2 this year? I'll hang up and listen to your thoughts. Thank you.
I think this team has so many holes, needs so much depth. If they get offers to trade down where they can get some kind of value, and, you know, you're not killing yourself. You're not going to give up a 1 for a 5 and a 6. Right. As long as it's a reasonable standard trade down, this team needs so much help. I'd love to see them trade down. Multiple. The Patriots do it every year.
Doug, I agree with you 100%. They got to get back in the 4th and 5th round. To me, you're in the catbird seat at 11. If that player that you want is not there, you think you can get that player or close to that player a couple picks back, man, you trade out of that and you pick up extra picks, and you look at that on every single pick.
Every pick.
Especially in the, you got what, 5
You
picks?
got 5 in the first.
Right. So when you look at that, I mean, come on.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Accumulate. Accumulate. Be accumulators, not spenders.
But they have not done that since they won the Super Bowl. They haven't even tried. They haven't wanted to.
No. I mean, last year was telltale. 9 picks the year before.
Right.
You could see some light at the end of the tunnel. You saw some rationale for all 9. The next year they've got 7 that they turn it into 5.
Right. And of course, that's been part of the problem. Guys, thanks so much. It's been a great night tonight. Again, I hope you guys have a great Easter weekend, and thanks for joining us in Inside New Orleans Sports.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's fun.
No, absolutely. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, there's a rebroadcast of this program each and every Friday night right here on WLE at 10 p.m. We got some new times for you as well. You can catch us every Thursday night at 10 o'clock on Cox 130, 9 o'clock on Pelican on Friday, and then if you're up at 2 a.m. on Saturday morning, you could catch us on Cox 130 there as well. So, as always, we appreciate you tuning in. Don't forget, you catch me on the radio, 9:90 a.m., WGSO. That's 11 to 1 weekdays. The TuneIn Radio app is a great way to catch the program. Also, you can listen live, download the podcast at ericasher.com. Remember, every single episode of Inside New Orleans Sports is also at ericasher.com as well. Again, special thanks to our guests, Doug Mouton and Rick Gaille. Also to the WLE production staff, including Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Kenny Juno, Naila Jones, Richard King, Philip Williamson, and my director, William Hill. Have a great Easter weekend. We'll see you right back here next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.
New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is the first place award winner of the 2015 New Orleans Press Club's Excellence in Journalism Award for the category of Best TV Sports Show.